Okay, so now we're going to actually go back to the PowerPoint for a couple slides. So the way this is going to work is we're going to show a couple slides from a PowerPoint, and then Justin's going to actually do a live demo. That one, right?
This guy, I've got everything.
Oh, okay. Okay, can we turn on the sound for a minute? What did I do? I just messed something. Turn on the sound so I can hear people. So can everybody see the slide that says Missouri Transect Data Portal?
Yes.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, so so basically we're going to be showing you a new data portal, and it's actually just been kind of like put to the front of our data portal website recently. So up till now we've had kind of an older data portal, and so this is a new one that's actually designed to make meeting some of our requirements easier. So kind of like some objectives of having this data portal are to allow the timely sharing of data with all EPSCoR participants. And so that's actually a requirement that people producing data in the EPSCoR project are supposed to put it into a place where it can be shared among participants so people in different teams can use it. And so this is going to help with both submitting and searching that data. So it will also allow us to more easily share data samples with the public, and so that's also a requirement, is that in a timely manner we're supposed to make small samples of data available, even though we might not want to make our whole data set publicly available until it's published. We're supposed to still make small samples data available, and then in that way, if there's anybody in the public, especially in the state of Missouri, who would like to see more of the data, they would be able to submit a request. And so our data portal actually has tickets that people can submit, so the public can submit requests to get more data, and then they can actually ask the producer of the data for permission to use it before it's published. And so this data portal also makes data submission and metadata submission easier. And so metadata is the data that actually describes your data. For example, times and locations of where it's collected and other important information. And so this data portal will make it easier to keep that organized. It also makes it easy to select a license so that you can attach a license with how you want to release your data. And so it has some choices, especially Creative Commons, which has some different choices. For example, you can say that you would all of your data is publicly accessible and freely usable by anybody, or you could say that it's only usable if somebody cites the use of the data and gives you credit, or you could say that it's usable by the public but not by private companies. And there's a lot of different things that you could select there. And then it also allows for easy searching through the data sets, so other teams can more easily find out what kind of data has been produced and then where they can get that data. So, so those are kind of the objectives we had when we set up this data portal, and now Justin is going to actually show you how to use the data portal. And so he's going to include both things about submitting the data and things about searching the data, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, so he's going to switch over to give a live demo, but we also have all this information in slides, so both the PowerPoint and the live demo will be available in the future. So if there's something that you didn't write down from the live demo, it's okay, because you'll be able to get these PowerPoints that have all the information. So now I'm going to give it to Justin.
All right. Let's see. We'll switch on over here. Can everyone see the website? I hope.
Is this on? Or I don't know if you can hear what they're saying.
Yeah, should be able to. Hopefully.
Can everybody see the website that says "Welcome to the new Missouri EPSCoR Data Portal"?
I can.
Okay.
Good enough. Okay, so this is the landing page for the new Missouri EPSCoR Data Portal website. You can get to it by going to data.missouriepscor.org, or if you're familiar with the missouriepscor.org site, there's Data Portal right at the top there. You click that, and you'll go right to the same page. So it's sort of, we'll still have access to the old Data Portal that people have been using, but this is sort of the new front-facing Data Portal. So the first thing you'll see on the main page is just a big search box, and this is very Google-like. You can use it. You can start searching right from there. You also have just a little recent activity module here, so you can sort of see the recent activity of anything that's been going on the site and sort of just get a statistics overview. So not anything too important, but just things you might use possibly. So I'm just going to go ahead and log out real quick just so that I can show the first step you would probably do is to log in. And the accounts for the data portal are going to be the same as you would on the Missouri EPSCoR website. So these are, the backend's called Drupal. So all our Drupal sites have the sign in with your username. And so I was able to copy all the usernames over to the data portal site. Unfortunately, because it's not a Drupal site, I can't get to your passwords. So you are going to have to use the forgot your password. So all your accounts are in there. You would just need to click the forgot your password, enter your username, and when you send the request, it'll go to your email. You'll be able to go in and essentially reset your password, so you'll be able to use the data site.
I have a question.
Sure.
So if, do they have to use the same password they're using for? No. Okay.
You can use any password you like. It's independent of your Drupal account. And like I say, because Drupal has its own little black box of encryption that it uses for passwords, I'm not able to get to that through the new data portal site, but your account will be the same. So,
okay.
And if you don't know what your account might be, you can go to the data.missouriepscor.org/user, and you can just go ahead and search your name. So I'll search for me. And it has a list of everyone there. You can click on it, and if you scroll down a little bit, it'll say username. So you can search on your real name, and it'll come up with your username in case you can't remember. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm just going to sign in. I have my credentials saved. So I'll log in, and when you log in, you'll be presented with your dashboard. This is something that you probably won't use too often, might be handy, but it's essentially a list of your activity on the site, like previous activity, as well as anything you quote unquote follow. And so what you'll see on a lot of examples are like organizations, groups, data sets, data objects can all be followed. And what that will provide is updates on any changes to those particular things. So for example, you really wanted to follow a particular data set, you could get those updates and they would show up in your newsfeed. So maybe useful, maybe not. You can go to my data sets. And so from here, you can see all the data sets that you have personally entered, as well as quickly add a data set. Acquired data sets has a little shopping cart. It's a little misleading. What that really is when the site does security on certain things. So data sets, for example, and I'll show this in a minute, but data sets can be public and private, and you can limit granularly access to different data points. You can acquire them, quote unquote, using the data requests, and so they would show up here. My organizations, so for me, because I'm an administrator, I belong to all the organizations, but what I've done is I've set up the 5 teams, so climate, community, and so you will be associated with a particular team, and every point of data needs to be part of that organization. So that is basically the crux of each data piece. Each one will be related to a team. And so from there, you also have my groups, and groups are sort of, you can think of organizations as owning a piece of data and groups as describing the data. So one piece of data might fall into many groups. For example, I have sample data as groups that I've created. And so you can create your own groups, you can see other people's groups, and that's just another way to be able to search data is by using the groups. So since I'm talking about organizations, I'll hop over to the organizations tab, and I'm seeing the same thing here. You can see all the different organizations. You can click on, cyber infrastructure, for example, and it's going to give a list of all the data sets associated with that particular team. Because I'm a member of the cyber infrastructure team, I can also add data right there. I can see any data requests associated with that particular team. And so that, I'll explain it a bit in a bit, but data requests, like Dr. Elsick was saying, are something that the general public can do, as well as logged in users, to either request certain data that's already on the site or data that someone might be interested in that isn't on the site. So this is where you would go to mediate any data requests to close out. It's basically a ticketing system. So someone opens a ticket, you can see here that this is open. You can click on it. You can read about, who created it, what organization they assigned it to, when it was created. And then I would be able to go in and add comments and say, like, oh, what kind of data do you want to see or whatnot? And then I would be able to close the ticket. And that would fall under the same as this data requests here. So just quickly, I'll jump back to organizations. And so because I'm an administrator as well, I've gone and added members. So I have, like myself, Amy, Marianne, and Hung, which are some of the grad students on our team. And I can admin members. So at the moment, I think just Amy and I will be admins, but if people want to take a more active role in the data portal, I can make you an admin of your team, should you really want to be. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think I've covered everything for organizations. I'm just going to quickly go to groups. Groups might be a bit clearer once we get into the data sets themselves, but groups are simply a way to group data, and many points of data can belong to many different groups. So for example, I've just set up sample data. So as I've been testing and uploading sample data, I have all of my sample data in a group. And to add something to a group it's simply a matter of, and I'll show you in a minute, but when you click on a data set, you just add your data to a group, and then it lives in that group, and you can search based on groups types within organizations and certain tags and the data format and things like that. So just another way to help you organize the data in some logical way. So I'm going to hop over to the data sets page, and this is sort of the crux of the whole data portal. So when I'm here, I have a sort of Google-esque search parameters. I can just go ahead and just do a search on some data. I can order it. I can search by organization. So if I just want to see from the plant team, I can look for specific tags. And these tags are just text strings that you can add to your data when you create it or later on that, again, give more specific elements that someone could search on. So for example, this UAV flight data contains stuff from Bradford, so I've tagged it as Bradford. So if I am someone interested in all the Bradford plots, I click tags, and then I'm sorting by that. So again, just a way to narrow it down. Formats, again, is the way the data is formatted in. So you can see here, this is a tar archive. Whereas if let me just clear my searches real quick.
Can you just really quickly define tar archive for
Oh, sure. So a tar archive is, in a Linux system, you have what are called archives. So if you want to take a bunch of data in different folders and put it all together for someone, so you don't have to individually compress an object, you want to compress the whole thing in one go. You would create an archive of it and then go ahead and compress it. And I have a little demo of that in just a minute that I can get to and actually show how that's created.
And then it's kind of like a zip.
Yeah. If you're on Windows, it would be a zip or whatnot. But the tar is the actual binding of the elements, and then you have compression on top of the tar. So as you can see here, like there's a JPEG. This is denoting a comma-separated value file and a PDF file. So these, when you enter the data, it can automatically detect the type of data that you're uploading. Or you can specify it manually. So if you're looking for a specific type of data, you can go in and choose the format. And like Dr. Elsick was talking about, you can search by licenses as well. So if you want to use data in a specific way and you know that there's a particular license that you require or need to use or are interested in, you can sort by, this is the GNU free license. So I can go ahead and just go back here. I'll just look at the plant teams because I've gone into Nadia's directory and Jim Peterson's directory and just created samples so that I could demo today. So I'm going to click on the 2015 UAV flight data. And when I come here, there's two sorts of data points in this data portal. There's data sets and data resources. And so a data set would logically be something like a folder or a directory if you're on a system, and it's just going to contain one or many data resources. And the data resources are going to be your actual data points. So they'll be your tar archives, your JPEGs, your images, your actual data. Whereas the data set is just more of a logical grouping of that data. So here I have the 2015 UAV flight data, and then my data resources, the data points, are the Bradford Farms flight on 8/7, the Bradford Farms flight on 8/9, things like that. So here I have a little bit of metadata. I have the author, so that was Jim Peterson. The maintainer, I just put myself because I created it. The version, if that's important to you, you can keep updating it. The status of the data set, this guy here, is active, and it tells you last updated, created. Here we have the little follow button again. So if I was very interested in this data set and I thought Jim might be updating it in the future, I could follow it and get those updates. As well as, because I'm the owner, I'm able to group this data. So if I wanted to, I would need to go to groups and create a new group, but I could, say UAV data and then simply type it in and add it to a group. So, if I want to add it to samples, I just click samples, add to group, and then this is grouped in a sample data set. And then again, here's an activity stream, so you can actually see the history. Basically, if you're familiar with Git at all, it's sort of like a Git history of the data set, this particular data set. So I'm sorry, down here, these are some of the tags. So as I said before, like Bradford, Mount Vernon imaging, these are the ones that showed up. I'll just jump back here real quick. Right here on the side, these tags are what they're calling it. So they're just string tags of little pieces of text that help you, again, narrow things down for searchability. So I'm going to click on Bradford Farms. And again, I'm getting more granular with my metadata. So here I can see when it was updated, created, what the format it's in. So that's where that tar archive comes from, the license, Creative Commons, and it gives you a link to the Creative Commons as well. So if I click this guy, he's going to open here and I can actually read what the license is. So if I'm searching for data, and I'm not sure what does the Creative Commons license actually say, I can jump over and read it. When it was created, and these are just some of the default field values, but if you need to include others, if you feel they're important, you can create unlimited, I think they're called key values in later, and I'll show you how to create a data set, but you can create unlimited key values for data sets and data points, and you will be able to add that particular data if it's important. So here, what I've done is the data on the Transect server is in general probably going to be quite large. So instead of having you take that data off, bring it to your machine, submit it to the data portal, that would create a lot of space on our end because you would essentially be doubling it, and it would be extra work for you. So what we're doing is we're creating FTP links, which is a file transfer protocol, and we're creating those links to the Missouri Transect server. So you'll be able to do what you normally do on the Transect server, and essentially point a link, create a link to that data that you just submit to the data portal. So if I want to go ahead and download the Bradford Farms tar archive, I can just click on it and it'll prompt me to save it, and I'll get a tar BZ2, which is the encryption, or I'm sorry, the zipping, the compression algorithm. And I will be able to download it and actually view it. So depending on the type of format that you submit, like if for an image, for example, you'll actually be, the data portal is smart enough to be able to preview that for you. So if you have a comma separated value, CSV, it can actually create a table for you and you'll be able to view it. The image, it will preload, but because this is a tar archive, there's really nothing for it to show you. So it's just going to give you the link and say, hey, if you want to go to the resource, you can go ahead and download it. So because I'm the administrator, I can go in and actually admin everything. There should be, when you are the owner of your data, you'll be able to click the little manage button in the upper right-hand corner for just about anything you have permission to. And I can go right in and edit from there. So again, this is the key value, adding custom fields. This is, all the tags that are, so it's right there. And the resources that accompany that data are also right there. So the other thing I'd like to make a point of is the privacy and sort of permissions for data sets. So as you can see, because I'm logged in, I'm able to see any private data set. So anyone on the Transect project who has an account and is logged in can see private data sets. And I have a little incognito window over here. And this is someone that, as you can see, is not logged in. So when they click on data sets, for example, the greenhouse cameras are labeled as private. And so they can see that they exist, but they're not actually able to see the data set themselves. So you might want to use this private setting if you're only interested in sharing with the Transect community rather than just anyone to the public. Whereas this UAV flight data I've set as public, and therefore because I'm not logged in, I can still see the data set. But that doesn't necessarily grant me access to the data resources. So you can see here that I have a little lock icon and I'm not able to get into the Bradford Farms 8.7. And that's because, let me jump back here where I'm logged in. Hopefully that's not too confusing, but the Bradford Farms, I can click on it. And so if I go to edit, because I'm the owner, I can edit it. I can see that I've set it to private. And when it's private, even if I were to be logged in, even if I were to be logged in, I wouldn't necessarily have access to it. And in order to grant access, I would type someone's name here, and I could say Amy Walsh. If I wanted to give her access to it, I could then update it, and she would have access. So this is another way to maybe protect the data or only share with people that you're interested in sharing with. So if I log in, for example, I'm just going to use the username of one of our grad students. I sort of hijacked his account for demo purposes. But so Hung logs in, and he is logged in. So if I go to data sets, he is able to see the greenhouse data now. It's no longer private. But if I go to the UAV flight data, this data resource is still private even to him. And that's because I haven't given him access to the data. So what he can do then is what we had talked about before is creating the data requests is he can click on this data request and it's going to pre-populate it for him. It's going to say, hey, this is a data request and I'm requesting resources to Bradford Farms. And I could, say I would like this data because, and fill out a team, and I could submit it to the plant team. And so the plant team, as I showed earlier, would get under their data request, they would have a new request, a ticket essentially, and they would be able to mediate with Hung and say, oh, sure, you can have this data, or why do you need this data? And then they could go in and either facilitate giving him access to the data by, like I said, going to this page and adding him, or maybe working with him through the Transect server and just giving him access through there. I mean, there's different ways you can mediate it, but one option is to go through the data portal website and give him access there. I think I've pretty much covered everything. There's a couple of things that I'm still sort of working on with it, because like I say, this is a work in progress. I'd really like people's feedback, because if it's something where everyone says, well, this sucks, I would never use this, then it's not good for anyone. So if people have questions, comments, and concerns, I'd be happy to try to appease everyone and integrate as much as possible, because I think this would be useful. I can show uploading a data set though, because I think that might be interesting to some. So if I want to add a data set, let me jump quickly to the Transect server. So I can go ahead and I'll SSH into the Transect server. And I know everyone hates the command line, but unfortunately, I think this is, Amy and I had sort of brainstormed ideas, and I think this is the easiest way because it just has the least amount of steps. And this would be how you're creating an FTP link to your data.
I have a question
Sure.
before you go too far. So, so I know that I think there's some people from the education team here, and I know that Mo Dirt might want to put data up there, but they're going to have, they probably will have files that, can they use the website?
Sure.
Okay,
oh, that's a good point. So there's a limit to the website on what you can upload. So if I go to a data set, I can show this, but 250 megabytes is the biggest file you can upload through the website. I can change that limit, but I didn't want people to get carried away with uploading too much to the website.
That's probably okay for their data.
Sure.
So some data will work.
So you can definitely upload straight from the website, and I'll show this in a second. I'm going to show here how to create an FTP link if you have data on the server. And really, again, this is something where if people have a problem with the 250 megabyte limit, I can certainly increase it. This is something I would be happy to work with people on to get it to a place where people actually like using the data portal, because if people don't use it, then it's really, I mean, no one's going to be able to search anything on it, because I can't really go in and get your data and do it for you, because I don't know what the data is. I don't know what's able to be available, and I wouldn't know enough. So I'd be happy to help anyone doing that. So if I'm on the Transect server, everyone has a data directory, as they're familiar with. So I'll just go ahead and list my data directory, and I've created a demo for this example. So I'll change my demo. And I can see that I have a directory, you can see from the D, called calibration. So I'll just list what's in calibration. And I have a bunch of files. I think I stole these from Jim Peterson. So thanks again for letting me steal all your information. And I want to go ahead and tar this archive. Again, what we had talked about before, I want to create another tar archive where I take all this data, put it together, and then compress it so I can put it up on the server. So I'll use the command tar, and if I can remember, VCFJ, I think. Well, it's always tricky to remember these things, even for someone that uses. Yeah, the order shouldn't matter, but so you would use this. And so what this is going to do is this is going to create the tar archive. It's going to, the command says to tar, and then these options here will let me put all this data together in a package and then compress it using the BZ-zip format. So I want to create a name for my tar. So you want to use something descriptive. You know, I might create, or today's the 5th. So 4/5/2017, and this is my calibration data. You know, give it a descriptive title so that someone downloading the data knows immediately what it is. The other thing that I'm missing here that should really go in is for every point of data, you should really have a README that describes the folder structure that you might have, or what kinds of images or data that you have, so that someone that downloads it, if they come back to it weeks later, and they won't necessarily have to navigate back to the data portal to understand what your data is. They should have it on disk. So I'm going to name it with the extension tar.bz2, because that's what I'm creating is a tar, and BZ2 is the compression format. That way, someone that downloads my data will know exactly how to decompress it. And then I need to tell it what I want to compress. So I'll give it calibration, and it's going to go ahead. It's going to do it, so I can make sure that it really did do it. It's not lying to me. So it did. It created the new file here. And in order to, and this is another thing that's sort of a work in progress, I'd be happy to talk to people about this and change it, but I've created a publish directory from your home directory. So anything you want to put on this, the website will need to be put in the publish directory. And my thinking for that was that anything you'd want to publish would be in a good enough package that you could take it, put it in the publish, and then forget about it. People could access it. So I'm going to go ahead and use the move command to move my newly created file to the publish directory. And it didn't give me any errors, so I can go ahead and do cd /publish. And as you can see, it's moved into my publish directory. And you'll notice that I have a couple different colors here. These guys are highlighted and this one's not. And the difference being that if you take a look at this number over here, this 2 and this 1, what I'm doing when I'm creating an FTP link is really I'm creating in Linux what's called a hard link. And so what's happening is I'm pointing to your data on disk, and this might be more technical than you need, but what you need to know is that we essentially are creating 2 pointers to your data. And so if you accidentally delete stuff in your publish directory, there's no reason to worry about it, because Linux actually is pointing to that data from the FTP server as well. So that lets us save on memory because we're taking 2 pointers and pointing to your same data. But it also lets you not have to worry about messing anything up in publish, because that data will still be available to the website, and I can help you recover it back in your publish directory. So by this color and this number, it's noting that there are other links to that data, because the CI team poster and this calibration tar, which I've used as a demo before, are telling me that these are already linked on the data portal. So if I want to create a link, I use the command ccan link, and you can use man ccan link, which will tell you about that's a manual page. And I created this command, I created this software essentially, and I created this man page that hopefully gives you some options and you can read about it. But essentially all it does is create a link to the data portal. So I'll say ccan link 45, I'll go ahead and hit enter. And so what it's going to tell me is it created the link for that, and it gives me the URL that I'll need to submit into the data portal. And so I'm going to go ahead and copy that. But say you create these in batch, you create a whole list, and it gives you a big long string. The other thing that this command creates is a published links document. And so I can use the command tail, which just shows the end of a file. I can say publish links. And for all the links that I've published, it gives me a history. It kind of looks ugly here because I've blown up the screen so that hopefully you can read it. But it gives you a list of all the ccan link commands that I've run in the past. So I have a history of all my FTP links, should you forget or whatnot. So now that I have my link, I can go over to the data portal, and I want to create a new data set. So I can either go to data sets, create a data set. Like I said, I can go to my home page and up there, go to my dashboard. Sorry, this little guy up here. If I go to data sets, I can add a data set there. There's many places in which you can add a data set. And so when I click create a data set, I come to this form, and the first thing it wants is a title, and the title is what's going to show up right here. That's what this guy is going to be, the title. So I can go ahead and just say demo file. And what this also creates is a URL, and this URL is going to be a static link. So if you wanted to, say, make your data private and not even list it on the data portal site, you have that option down here to make it not even searchable, but you could still have a link to your data that you wanted to hand out to people for whatever reason. So then I give it a description. You can put some, this lets you put markdown in case you want to format it nicely, but we'll just say this is a demo. Tags, again, go to searchability. So I can say demo. Tags can be anything you want. They're just strings or just text that you can put anything you want. So we could put anything here. And this will create tags that people can find here under the tags. So when I create those, even if they don't exist yet, oops, I'm jumping around too much. Even if they don't exist yet, they'll be created. And here is your licenses. So what I've done is I have a list of licenses that are preloaded in here. Anything from Creative Commons to GNU to even saying not open. And if there's licenses you'd want me to add, just let me know. You would probably refer to your, as we had a presentation on data policies a week or two ago, you'd probably want to refer to your data policies to what sort of license you would want to create. The organization, now I have the ability, because I'm an administrator, I can be any organization. But likely if you're only associated with one organization, this will be a fixed parameter. Then you have visibility, and that's what I talked about with being either public, where anyone who accesses the data portal can see it, or private, where only individuals who are logged in can see it. Searchable, again, people logged in or not would not be able to find it using the search algorithms if you have set defaults, and which is where you would need to use your link, your hard link, to send to someone. We have the source, and source is really, source would be more applicable to something if you had data offsite somewhere and you were just getting a piece of it, but there was a source somewhere else. I'm not sure this is really applicable to our data portal, but it's there if you need it. Version, if you wanted a version, so this is version 1.0, for example. The author would be, I think, Jim Peterson, again. I think I stole his data. His email, my name, since I would be the quote-unquote maintainer. And then custom fields, if there was anything else I wanted to put. So, you know, test data, yes, you know, whatever you want. So then I click add data. So that's going to create this data set that holds the data resources, but I still need at least one data resource to go in here. So this is where I said before you could upload files. So as you can see here, there's a little warning for 250 megabytes limit. if I wanted to upload a file. So I could just click that. I could navigate to my computer and upload a file if I wanted to. But in this case, because I'm coming from the Transect server, I want to click link. And so it's going to allow me to paste my calibration data. Oop, I may have copied too much. You just want the FTP, where it says FTP//. It's similar to HTTP/. And I can see here that here's my file, calibration data. And then I want to name this file, and that's the name that will show up here. So I will say, and give it a description. And then I can list the format, or it can try to guess the format. I would suggest you probably want to put the format that the data is in, that they would download it in, so they know that they want to search on it. But the alternative would be you could put, if, for example, I compressed a bunch of JSON or XML data, you might put XML as the format. You just go ahead and put whatever you'd like there, so they know the data they're getting. So I think that might be up to you again to decide, but we'll say this is a tar archive because that's what I've created with, and it's giving me a hint since that already exists. But because I created this tar.bz2, that's why I'm calling it a tar archive. And then I have the ability to set it to private and give it to any users that, if it was private, give access to certain users, but I want this to be public. So I'm just going to say finish. And it's gone ahead and created my demo file data set. And then it's created my calibration data resource. And you can see here, I have all my metadata that was created for that. I have my link. So if I click this, I'll be able to download what was on the Transect server from the Transect server without actually having to go anywhere on the Transect server. I can stay right here. And then I have, my custom data field here that it's saved, as well as all my metadata. So, and if I was really so inclined, I could follow this, this data that I've just created and get any updates that anyone else would make to it. So I think this covers everything about it. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. But yeah, I think this is about it.
I have a question really quick.
Sure.
Sorry,
Sure.
everybody. So something that is going to be critical is that people are going to be able to need to see a sample of at least one of the, like, let's say
sure.
you have a collection of those 4 or 5 Bradford data sets. There's going to need to be a sample that shows what is in there.
Sure.
Like
that's a really good point.
Can people attach samples, or can
you
make a sample?
So what I would do in that situation, and that's a really good point, I would highly suggest you do this, because like I say, when I click on the demo file and I click on the calibration data, well, I can't really see what this is. If I'm someone that's browsing, maybe if I'm on the education team and I'm looking for something specific, I might not be able to figure out what this data looks like. So Dr. Elsick makes a good point, and this is something I think we've discussed before, but what I would do in that situation is I would maybe extract a couple images, go to my demo file here, and you can go ahead and if you hit manage, you can go to resources, and now you can add as many resources as you like. So what I would do is I would take one and maybe process it, make it look nice, and upload it as another resource. So maybe have a couple of resources that say, sample calibration data in here. So if I had an image, and then that way, like I say, let me go back to data sets real quick, because I have some other ones like this, this data example. If I click on the CSV file, we'll see if it loads. So because I have this CSV file, what the data portal was able to do is it was able to say, I know what a CSV file is. I'm going to make this table, and it's going to build this table. So I'm able to sort using this table on the data and things like that. So that would be a good place where if you had maybe a small snippet, if you had maybe quite a bit of CSV data, but maybe you could create a small snippet so someone could get an example, this would be a good place to do this, as well as you could upload images as well. Like I have, this is a JPEG image. So this is just would be a good sample data. So yeah, that's a great point.
I think I personally would like to make a requirement and like
okay,
actually punish people for not doing that. But sorry,
I'll work on a punishment system. But yeah, I don't know if anyone has any questions or anything. Hopefully I covered everything thoroughly enough that you could at least, it's live right now. Like I say, you can go right to the Missouri EPSCoR website and just click on Data Portal up here and check it out. I'd be open to feedback. I created this quite a few months back. And as I was going through yesterday, I noticed a couple things that I wanted to improve. So if anyone can come up with anything that they think would be a good suggestion, a good feature to add, just let me know. I'd be happy to try to implement it or work with you. It is unmuted. Everyone's just very quiet.
Any questions?
No?
I have one. Do you have to use tar or could you use zip if you're more familiar with
You
that?
can use anything your heart desires. It will accept anything, and it will try to intelligently guess what it is. But like I say, however, I would probably manually specify what sort of data it is. But yeah, you could tar, you could zip, you can LR zip, whatever you like.
I'm just thinking that like a lot of people downloading would more likely have zip automatically because they have Windows computers.
Sure, and that's a fair point. So you might want to use it.
I was thinking that we might actually make that as kind of part of our way of doing things. I guess I'd have to think about the best way, because I know people who use Linux servers would, for computing, would use a tar, gzip or bzip, and then, but the people who have Windows computers would probably want zip. So
sure, yeah, and if anyone wants me to I can make demos on how to do any of those things on the server. I know I went kind of quick with that one, but just to show you the steps on how to get something from the Transect server to the data portal by linking it. But yeah, I can make zip demos, tar demos, anything you like.
And I think that, like, for people who want to access the data and they see that it's in a tar format, but they don't have a way of using that, I think that the request system would actually be a good way of just letting us know that you need it in a different format, and can we change this data set into zip for them? Yeah,
so you would just go up to data requests, click on add a data request. You could create, data, I can't spell it, and then say, can I get this? And then assign it to the appropriate team, and then create the request. And that would be as easy as that. They would get notified. That is one thing. If you click on your account and you go to manage, there is email notifications. So if you want to subscribe, you can. And then that, instead of having to go to the data portal, it'll send you an email. So if someone creates a data request, you'll be notified with that. So that might be something that you'd be interested in. Yeah, if no one has any questions, I think I've said all I can say.
Yeah, I guess the data request also would be a good way for people to request a sample if there's not a sample available.
Yes.
So I encourage the, I feel kind of like for the education team where you need to get this data and see small pieces of it, it might look a little still kind of frustrating. But once we start getting more data there, even if people don't kind of cooperate at first with providing samples, at least I think the request system would actually put a name, your name would be there saying, I need a sample of your data. So that might be helpful. And, if they know that you specifically want a sample of their data set, then hopefully that they would actually be able to then submit it.
So I saw T. Thomas raised his hand. I'm not sure what to do about that.
Oh, that's Terry.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, so just let me know. I need to stop sharing. Oh, Zoom.
Yeah, you can just stop sharing, right? Altogether.
Okay, I can. There we go. I'm back. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm not sure I can hear you, but I can take a question if you have a question. Oh, is it
Terry,
chat?
are you?
Let's see.
Yeah, we can't.
Let's see. I haven't muted you.
can you find your chat, the chat window?
Yeah, I think.
Wait, what's the way to find that? Like,
We can do charades
yeah.
if you want to act it out.
Oh,
Okay. I mean, you can
Well,
ask it here if
you
it's
can
easier
send
to
an
ask it in the
email,
chat.
or- Yeah, we're not
Yeah.
worried about being delayed. Okay, okay, she's gonna send an email, so,
Okay.
okay. Are there any more questions, or else, yeah, everybody should feel free to send emails.
Yeah, you can email me. You can find me on the thing. It's just my last name, LetourneauJJ@umsystem.edu. I can answer any questions. And like Dr. Elsick said, I created a PowerPoint that sort of goes over this as well. It was more to remind me of talking points for the presentation, but as an example of everything that we'll put with this video. So you should have all the resources you need. So, yeah, if everyone's good, I can close the meeting. I can end it. You can go back to your lives.
Bye.
Thanks, Justin.
Yep, you're welcome.